Just last week, I was meeting with a new Cure JM grandparent in Florida, and he said to me, "You know, Jim, it must be hard raising money and funding research for a disease as rare as JM." I acknowledge that there are days that I wake up and wonder where the next dollar will come from. And I thought about his comment for a moment and then said, well, yes, it can be, but on the other hand, we have the greatest group of families, an extraordinary stable of doctors and researchers, the world's foremost JM experts on our medical advisory board, and leadership from the board of directors and a national leadership council that is second to none. In short, with all of you in the room, there is no way that we will fail to fulfill our mission of finding newer, better, more effective treatments and a cure that will eradicate juvenile myositis from the list of 7,000 rare diseases. The first question before us is not if, but when we will find that cure. It's a long road and there are few, in fact, maybe there are no shortcuts in science. 15 years ago, we were at the very beginning of that road. And by the way, this is the 15th anniversary of Cure JM, and can we have a round of applause for Cure JM founders, Tom and Sherry Hume. I know Tom's over here. And in fact, would the entire board of directors please stand and be recognized? I want to make sure you all know who they are. As I was saying, 15 years ago, we were at the beginning of that road, and now we are somewhere along it. While we don't fully understand the causes of JM, we know more about the disease than we ever have, and that knowledge has resulted in a quality of care from doctors in the US and around the world that is better than it has ever been. Much of this is because of the support of Cure JM and the leadership of those of you in the room or watching us on the live stream today. Many of today's JM doctors and researchers who are improving the lives and indeed saving the lives have been trained by legends in the field. Lauren Pachman, Lisa Ryder, Ann Reed, Brian Feldman, to name just four, all members of Cure JM's medical advisory board. So you see, your influence in the money you have given and raised has been exponential and multi-generational. At Thursday night's dinner of the National Leadership Council, I spoke about the importance of being a purposeful leader. I won't repeat that here other than to say one short part, which is to say that all of you are purposeful leaders. The fact that you are here means that you have elected to do all you can to share your JMers' journey with this disease, to lighten the burden of fear and anxiety, to show your love and support, and to act to make your JMers' world the best and most positive that it can be. And that leadership that each of you bring extends beyond your own JMer to tens of thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of other children around the world who must live with JM and the fear of an unknowable future. Through your funding of our research, you give every one of those children reason to hope. The question for our doctors and researchers is, however, how fast can you go? Science moves slowly. Our job is to be impatient. How many times have you heard, my God, if we can put a man on the moon in 10 years, we ought to be able to cure cancer? Well, here we are, almost 50 years to the day after Neil Armstrong's giant leap for mankind, and very few cures for diseases, and especially for rare diseases, most of which go unstudied, have ever been found. As it turns out, biology is harder than engineering, much harder. And so while it is our job to be impatient and push the boulder up the hill faster, we should also take a moment to reflect on our absolute good fortune that JM is one of the few of those 7,000 rare diseases that has a cadre of dedicated researchers, that is increasingly understood with every passing year, that has promising new treatments in the pipeline, and that has an army of families and fundraisers to make sure we have the resources to get the job done. Today, researchers who are funded by CureJM are conducting very promising trials and studies to repurpose drugs in juvenile myositis. These drugs are approved as therapies for autoimmune or inflammatory diseases that might prove useful in treating some patients with juvenile myositis. Corbus Pharmaceuticals is in a phase 2 clinical trial for a compound that looks to be effective in treating skin disease and myositis. We have also seen improvements and measurements in outcomes in muscle strength from this same compound. ReveraGen's Biopharma's dissociative steroid, vamorolone, is in phase 2 clinical trial for Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and it is on track for FDA approval in 2020. CureJM is leading an effort to conduct a subsequent trial in juvenile myositis. Based on the data to date, we have every reason to be hopeful that our JMers could have a real and improved first-line treatment option, because what dissociative steroid means is that you have virtually all of the effectiveness of prednisone with virtually none of the side effects. How huge would that be? That we have come this far this fast is indeed a testament to all of you and to CureJM families everywhere. Few would have thought that Tom and Sherry's lemonade stand on a bright and sunny weekend in Encinitas, California, would have led to this extraordinary organization. And just what is extraordinary? I can best describe extraordinary by telling you a story. In January of this year, Shannon Malloy, and you all know Shannon, received a call from a small town south of Tucson, Arizona. Cheryl Maynard, a brand new JM mom, was on the other end of the line. Cheryl's 7-year-old daughter, Rachel, was in a fast-moving autoimmune spiral. The attending rheumatologist, who had actually diagnosed JM correctly, was quickly out of his depth in developing an effective treatment course and at a loss as Rachel's condition deteriorated. Wisely, he referred Rachel to a larger pediatric hospital in the region, but unfortunately the new rheumatologist was only willing to prescribe oral steroids and not the high-dose IV best practice standard of care. Rachel walked into that hospital visit. On her next visit, she was wheeled in and admitted to the ICU. Within days, she could only move her eyelids. She was on a respirator and 24-hour dialysis. Cheryl sought options, but where to turn? Where to turn? Don't doubt the power of social media, because Cheryl found CureJM's Facebook page, where another mom gave her Shannon Malloy's cell phone number. And Shannon immediately turned to research committee co-chair Suzanne Edison, who connected Cheryl with Dr. Lisa Ryder at NIH and CureJM Center of Excellence at George Washington University. Together, they found a third pediatric rheumatologist, this time one willing to listen to Dr. Ryder's experienced advice and counsel. Lisa Ryder saved another life. Of this, Cheryl has no doubt. Cheryl says, "We almost lost Rachel, and we did lose precious time in the early days and weeks. Thank God and CureJM, she survived." And she goes on to say, but it didn't have to be this way. Rachel is home and still in a wheelchair. Cheryl says she is okay, but facing a longer road back than would have been necessary. Thank God and CureJM, so says Rachel. Now, you may not have had anything to do with God's role in all of this, but you sure did with CureJM's. What would have happened had CureJM not had the resources to create and manage a Facebook presence? What if the board had not had the foresight some years ago to hire Shannon as our first employee? Shannon, who has her own JMer and who is literally at her post 24/7. What if Suzanne Edison, a board member and JM mom, had not had the knowledge and relationships with our clinicians generally and with Dr. Reiter specifically to know what needed to be done? This scenario could have played out with any of our Cure JM clinicians, any of our staff, and any of our board members. This is what Cure JM is all about. That we could do all of this is because we have the best and most committed families anywhere. All of you committed to helping us raise the money to assure that we have the resources to create an organization that leaves no JMer behind. Without you, we would have almost none of this. And while this story will have a happy ending, it also serves to remind us that we have much work to be done. While we have over 700 clinicians and professionals in our medical network, there are obviously geographic and medical education gaps in JM care. We can and should pat ourselves on the back for funding groundbreaking programs in genetic discovery, drug development, autoantibody discovery, registry and biorepository creation, predictors of flare, and so forth. We should be proud that we have funded fellowships and research projects with an impressive and growing contingent of brilliant younger clinicians and researchers who will be the next generation of discovery scientists and, no pressure here, the generation that will carry the torch in finding even better treatments in the foreseeable future and, dare I say, in the next few years. We can accomplish all of this and more because of your commitment. You inspire us. We are proud and honored to have you all on the JM team, answering the call and leading the change and the charge for a better world for JMers everywhere. Thank you.